Hello, everyone, and welcome back to It's a Numbers Game. I'm Adam Morris, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Daniel Welling. Every MSP is being asked the same question right now. How do we make money from AI? Clients are asking about ChatGPT, about automation, about agentic AI. And most MSP owners are stuck between two extremes, overselling hype or ignoring it completely. Our guest today is Roy Castleman, and he works with AI in a very practical way. Roy runs multiple businesses, including an MSP, and uses AI daily, not as a product to sell, but as a tool to fix real business problems. And in this episode, we're going to talk about where AI actually fits for MSPs, what AI is good at, where it breaks, and why AI only creates value when it's tied to a clear business function. We also cover how to avoid hallucinations, how to use AI as a thinking partner, and why MSPs must keep hold of the architecture and leadership, not hand it over to the tools. If you are trying to work out how to position, price, or deliver AI services without burning trust or margins, this episode is for you.
Roy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Roy, we've known each other for, I'm going to say 6 or 7 years now, maybe a little longer. And I've always really enjoyed our conversations when we meet up for a coffee or a Teams. And our most recent conversation was no different. We got stuck straight into AI. And ultimately, the nub of it is, well, how does one person run 4 businesses? And today in the modern world, AI is the answer. So tell us all about it.
Well, I think it's an accumulation of different things, and AI now just makes it so much easier, doesn't it? I think there's so much noise out there at the moment with AI, and this is such a problem for people. There's 100 different tools or 1,000 different tools you can use, and the clarity that we need to bring to it is what is the business function that we need to fix, and how can AI help us do that? Just really digging into that, for your own companies, your own elements is where it becomes quite a lot more tricky, right? What is the business function that I'm trying to fix? What is the problem in that business function? And then what are the tools that I need to use to enable that? And I maintain that over the last 6 months, I've probably done 6 to 7 years worth of work, and having built I've had probably 20 odd companies in the last 30 years, from those that just totally don't go anywhere, to a massive adventure center that I bought in 2018, which later failed due to COVID, through the 3 IT companies that I run. So I know what working looks like, right? And I know how much time and effort it took me to get things moving before. I have a very good idea now. What does it actually look like?
I always enjoy talking about your various interests outside of the IT world as well, but we'll maybe have you back on for another episode to talk about some of those. But yeah, I guess if someone literally is entirely new to this, where do you begin? Which product do you pick? Do you pick first, or which business needs do you pick first? Which is where are we going to get the low hanging fruit from here?
I think first of all, you have to understand that this is a process that you need to go through, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, any of the large language models that you need to understand. You need to go through that whole process of understanding how the tools work. So, use ChatGPT in your own life. Just, ask it questions. Open the fridge, take a picture of the food in the fridge and ask it to make you a menu. And just get to that process of understanding the basics of the tools. A lot of people are very afraid of AI at the moment. It's going to take my job. It's going to make me less creative. It's going to do all these kind of things. And what I found for myself as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, is it's actually the opposite. Right, and what I mean by that is, initially, if we had to go out and do something, we had to go learn. So we go through a learning process, and we kind of go get some books, and we go and watch some YouTube videos, and we learn. We take this information in. Now we don't even have to do that anymore, right? we can actually just find out what the problem is. We hear what the problem is. And from there, we're saying, okay, this is the problem. AI, can you help me with this? The pitfalls in this are quite often that AI is a yes man, right? And then anybody that's got any decent experience and is going to understand AI is a yes man. You ask it a question and say, oh, yeah, I think this is a great idea. And it's going to say, yeah, Roy, that's a magic idea. Yeah, even selling bloody soap on the side of the road is a great idea. Go out and do that. But if you ask it, I need you to be my critical thinking partner. I need you to help me understand what opportunities I'm missing, what biases I'm bringing to the conversation, and really be critical on this. You get a totally different answer. So it's understanding how to work with these tools that is going to make them so much more powerful for you.
So the power very much is in the prompts rather than the imagination as to what you like. Start small but be very specific about how you ask.
I think the power is becoming less in the prompts than it was before.
Right.
But I think the power is very much in understanding that AI is a tool that you can use to enhance your human, rather than AI is the tool that's going to do everything for me. I, for example, use AI for automation a lot. And so what I'm doing, if I do a podcast, for example, I will take the podcast audio, drop it into a folder, it'll go through a whole bunch of AI processes and spit out and connect onto my podcast tool in the end. That's fine. I couldn't get to that stage without understanding how the limitations of AI. AI is a 60% tool. It's not even an 80% or 90% tool. It'll do 60% of the job for you and do that well, but you have to be very clear on what you're asking it to do. Otherwise, you get the hallucinations. You get ChatGPT saying all sorts of odd and strange things that just don't work. And the tools are moving ahead at such a rapid pace that what's happening is what I could do on ChatGPT version 4, doesn't work now on ChatGPT 5. Or it works in a different way. So you need to keep your finger on the pulse. You need to be consistently moving forward. And you don't need to keep up with everything. In terms of don't go and buy all the new tools, don't go and upgrade. What's the business problem that you're dealing with? Because if you can deal with the business problem, get the business problem solved, use an automation to do that, then you can stay on track. I think trying to do too many things for too many people is really where AI is falling down, because it just doesn't do it that well.
Right, I just want to pick up on that part around being a critical thinking partner, which I really like that concept, and I really like interweaving that into prompts appropriately. You mentioned also around how it hallucinates and it gets things wrong. And despite the fact we're on version 5 of ChatGPT and version X of whatever else, it's still making these simple mistakes because it seems to be a yes person and it wants to come up with answers. And, I just had an example over the weekend where I was trying to hook up some legacy speakers to a new TV and do it under the remote control that came with the TV. And I was pretty sure it wouldn't work, but AI was telling me it would. But it hallucinated. It made up a particular menu in the TV because I do that. So I was just interested to know, have you got any tips out there for our audience around how to reduce those sorts of basic errors? Any particular wordings or prompts or anything around that to make it a bit more accurate?
I would be very clear, the prompting piece, that we spoke about initially is important. It's important that you set the context. Generally, you're talking to AI, and AI is 1,000 different experts in the room. So in your example, if you're saying, right, I want you to be an expert working on the Samsung model XYZ screen, I want you to also be an expert with this model of sound equipment or speaker. Now, help me with this. Be sure that you don't give me any information that's not active and live on the internet at the moment. So go out and check the manufacturer website. When I talk about AI being a yes man, what you need to understand is AI is trained on the human condition. AI is trained on how people react and how people think and how people, want to react. So when we go through the process of meeting a new person, what do? We try and show them our best face forward. We try and make sure we become friends. And AI at some point is trying to do that. It's trying to move forward and say, oh, okay, how can I tell this person exactly what he needs to I actually find at the moment that ChatGPT 5 is way, way more hallucinogenic, to use that term, than Claude AI. For example, Claude has just taken a huge amount of steps forward. So there's tools for purposes that really, you need to understand, and you need to, but before you even get there, you have to get to the point of, right, let's use this every day and see what it's doing. Then take my human, be the architect of the conversation, be the leader of the conversation. Don't give away your thought leadership. If you give away your thought leadership, you're in for a hiding 100% of the time.
So it sounds to me like the different tools actually have their own characters and personalities, like people as well. Like you were referring to, one is like this and one is like that, and that's why you're advising. Actually, you've got to get to know them in the same way as you would in a human circumstance. Go networking.
Yeah, 100%. I've probably tested 350 to 400 different AI tools at the moment, from the avatar creation pieces to the audio creation pieces, to things like Descript, which I use for editing. I've got a range of different large language models, from Gem and Spark, which is an agent type unit, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini. So they all have strengths in certain places, and they change quite regularly. As they're consistently going through this upgrade phase so quickly and so rapidly, their properties change. So you need to keep an eye on that. And, in some respects, again, if you're going to try and keep up to date with that all the time, you're going to I spend 10, 15 hours a week just playing with AI tools and doing different things. And I do that so my clients don't have to. Right. I need to be able to sit there. After this, I've got a call with my AI community where I go through, I sit down and I say, right, okay, what are the problems you're trying to fix? I try and bring them back into, listen, just fix the problem, but fix the problem with, the clarity that you're leading the conversation. Because if AI says, this is a great idea, I will quite often use Chatbot here and Gemini here, and I'll put the things in all three of them and see what comes out. Now, a lot of people don't have they believe they don't have the budget to be able to do that. But when you're paying £20 for each of these tools a month, you can then use them to cross-check each other. And cross-checking each other is a very good idea. I mean, the other thing we spoke about, how do we actually get AI to do this more effectively? Get it to cite, where it's getting things from. So you can go in and check the sites, because quite often ChatGPT will say, cite the locations where you're getting information from. It'll come back and you click on the links and there won't even be anything there. So you really need to own the thought leadership, and have AI as their thought partner.
Be honest. When was the last time you actually felt in control of your MSP finances? The late nights chasing invoices, the cash flow stress, constant pressure to grow profit. It can feel never-ending. At MSP Finance Team, we've built the complete outsourced finance solution just for MSPs. From day-to-day bookkeeping to annual tax, management reporting, and full virtual finance team support, everything you need to run a profitable, stress-free business is under one roof. So whether you want to regain control, free up personal time, or finally build towards a real financial freedom, we can help you get there faster. Visit mspfinanceteam.com and discover how our outsourced finance team can help you stop surviving and start thriving.
Really fascinating having a panel of AIs and not necessarily pitting them against each other, but certainly being selective about which ones. Well, like building a team within your own business in terms of right person, right seats, and the same is true of AIs as well. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, and I think the other big play that people are missing as business owners at the moment with AI is if you're a small business owner, or you have a team of people in the business that you're working with, you don't need to now just rely on that team. You can have an entire board of directors working for you, at the level that you want to. I mentioned earlier that AI is like having 1,000 experts in the room, and if you tell AI who it's acting as, it can very much act as that person. I want you to be a top 1%, a marketing specialist, in social media. I want you to be a marketing specialist in email. I want you to be a marketing specialist in whatever that is. I need you to be a CEO. I need you to act as a CTO or a COO. And you can then have the input that higher level of intelligence would give you from a person, and you can then take from that and say, okay, yes, that makes sense. I've had for some customers, I've set up an entire board for them, right? So there's a prompt for this for each person. Now that's the board. And then I have, okay, so this is a NED. I want you to act as a NED, and I want you to review what the board have said. It just gives you more information to work on. And part of that is the problem. It can give you way too much information. I don't know how many of you have got 1,000 threads on your ChatGPT, and just trying to keep up with where that is work in itself. So bringing it down to right, this is what we need to solve. I think is a good kind of way.
And can you just expand that a little bit into the practicalities of that particular scenario? So we're talking about setting up a number of NEDs for a small business, an MSP, for example. How would you actually construct that to make it, to bring some continuity into it, to bring some structure into it, some order, some search, so that you can, use these NEDs on a regular basis? They remember what they said before. They're aware perhaps of what the other NEDs have said, perhaps. How would you actually go about constructing it? Is it, for example, projects in GPT, or is it something else?
Well, between you've got GPTs, you've got gems, you've got a range of different approaches there. I like the GPT approach, because the GPTs allow you to set your criteria up front. Now, the GPTs don't allow you to remember the conversations as effectively. They can remember one conversation. Remembering that within any large language model, the context window is the important thing. So a context window is 4,000, 8,000, 10,000 characters, whatever it is, that they're talking about 200,000 characters in some of them. The reality is you give, and you'll have noticed this with any of the large language models you're using. You go in, you start having conversation. By the time you're having the 10th or 15th iteration of that conversation, suddenly it's forgotten what you said at the beginning. Right. So, understanding that if I'm going to go and do any complex prompting of this nature, I'll go in and say, right, this is the prompt. I'll copy that prompt out. And then every fifth or sixth prompt, I'll put that out, just a reminder that this is the prompt, and just bring it back on track again. So in direct answer to your question there, the tricky part with running out NEDs and things, unless you're creating the full large language model, which is possible, is to just make sure you're very clear on what that role is. The same as you would with your staff, your NED can be, you can literally take in the GPTs, you can take a couple of different books, you can take different websites, you can put various things in there, put all the information you want to work on as the storage, and then just have the prompt saying, I want you to act like this in all cases. And then they'll keep back and they'll give you consistent answers for that subject. Does that make sense?
I think so. And again, the more I listen to you describe the situation, the more it becomes apparent that you do have to have, there's no AI pill that we can take that's going to get us straight to a level of mastery. You've got to be familiar with and have used all of the different tools to build up in your own mind that comparison, almost like we're becoming an AI tool ourselves, and almost we need prompting to understand how to prompt.
Yeah. I mean, the other big piece with AI that I talk about a lot is around communication, right? And what we believe we're communicating as humans. We believe we're being very clear. We believe, that our communication is crystal clear. And as business owners and as leaders, quite often, this is so far from the truth, it's not even funny, right? And what I learned very clearly, and I've been on this AI journey for 2.5, 3 years, however long ChatGPT has been out. And, you put shit in, you get shit out, excuse the French. And this is so true, of AI, and it's very true of staff as well. I used to have I got a staff member in many years ago, George, and George was, he was going to come in and do some cold calling. So, he was doing 150 calls a day. And so I came in, I said, hey, George, what I want you to do is I want you to get hold of the clients, give them a call, build some rapport, and then you can start going into these, the sales process. And we went through this entire piece, and a week later, George is just not doing what he needs to be doing, and there's just no response coming out. So I sat down with him and I listened to some of the calls, and I'm like, "Well, George, you're not building rapport." And he's like, "Well, what? Well, I don't understand what you mean by rapport." Yeah, and so I wasn't clear enough in my communication to make sure that was, very much a set of guidelines. And this is really just amplified by AI. It's amplified to such a degree because AI, if you're not 100% clear, setting the context right, setting the scope right, setting, the expectations right, setting the output right, you're not going to get the same thing out that you're expecting. You're going to get something entirely different. You put in some bias into the conversation. Oh, I really like this, and I really like this, and I really like this. I think this should be at work. AI is going to agree with you. It's going to say, yes, that's just such a great idea. But if you go in very clearly in your communication and you said it clearly, you get much better out. And I think this is such a big play for why people are not using AI, because they start to go in and it just mirrors their ability to communicate. So he goes in, they say a whole bunch of stuff, and it puts out what they want. And I say, this is rubbish. And it's like, yeah, it is rubbish because you put rubbish in, right?
And in terms of that prompting, how do you recommend, or what are some of the optimal ways of doing it? Are we talking about iterative successive prompts, or are we talking about, an optimum number of characters in that initial prompt? Are there some tips around optimizing that approach?
I think the first tip is if the output is wrong, you need to change the input, right? So if the output is wrong, don't look to the tool and say the tool is wrong. You look to yourself first of all. So that's, just really reiterating what I said before. The next piece is to set, who you're wanting the AI to act as. This is getting better now, but the AI has the opportunity of being any one of these, 1,000 experts in the room. So set the expectation of what the AI is acting as, then set the context. The more context you can give it, the better it's going to be performing. And then be very detailed on what the problem is. Now, quite often you don't even know what the problem is, but you can say, this is the experience I'm having. I don't know really what the problem is here. Perhaps you can ask me. And I'd normally go and say, act as this, perform this action, ask me any questions until you're 100% clear that you with the answer. Right. So get the AI to come back to you and say, right, I don't really get what you're saying here. And that gives you, the opportunity to say, right, this is what I actually mean.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I think I have heard that before, but it's really great to hear you remind us of that, actually, that you need to use it to help you to get the right prompt to give it. So there's a bit of toing and froing going on.
Yeah.
Definitely. No, that makes a lot.
I would liken it to you go and you employ a graduate, right? And this graduate's got all the information that, they've learned from they don't have a real world experience of it. You're going to go in and say, right, I need to go out and do this. And then they're going to say, well, actually, what does that mean to you? How do you want me to do that? And just engage in the conversation. I like ChatGPT's way of talking to and from as well, because I like when you go through that conversation with ChatGPT, you can actually meet to this. When we hear it and we speak it, we digest the information in a different way. So, going out, the speech to text is very effective. Speaking and receiving is effective. And as humans, we act in different ways when we have different communication styles. So using those communication styles to learn more about how the communication works. I mean, I'll get up in the morning and I use both of these. I'll get up in the morning sometimes and say, listen, my brain is just so full. I've never been good at journaling. It just never really works for me. But I'll use AI as a journaler. Right, I have this problem. In the next 2 weeks, I need to be able to come to this. Then I'll say, right, now I need you to help me brainstorm. And I'll put the audible side on and I'll put it on my whiteboard and say, right, help me brainstorm this. And then we back and forth and we brainstorm. So I'm using the tool to get me to my outputs, but I'm using it in a way that allows me, as an engineer, as an MSP, pieces you understand this, as an engineer, I can sit there with a problem myself for 5 hours trying different things. I put one other engineer in that mix and we start having a conversation and suddenly the problem's fixed in 5 minutes. Even though the new engineer may not have given me much, it's just a different mechanism of the brain is activated. Same with AI.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how when you have a conversation with someone and you're forced to articulate what's in your head into words, you learn. In fact, you often find the answer to your own problem in just articulating the question better, don't you? And at the
100%.
end of it, you say, "Oh, actually, I don't need you now. I've just worked it out. Thanks. You can go now."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's been something on the engineers that we've always had to do, is have that door open that they can talk to someone. Just don't get completed.
And so in your sort of rhythm of using AI in this way, are you talking to it more than you're writing to it, just as a medium?
I think there's a few things. Yeah, it's what is the function that I'm trying to achieve. If I know my brain's very busy and I'm dumping, I will talk generally much more. I have found, however, that ChatGPT's whisper text is way better than anybody else's. So it's able to understand my dulcet African tones and in a better way. I can't use Gemini to the same degree. So I've actually enabled ChatGPT's whisper. So anything that I talk to on the PC, I use ChatGPT's whisper, and that me talk to texting has been a real godsend. It allows me to get things out. My brain thinks way faster than my mouse talks and my hand writes. So even slowing that down, is a challenge. But making sure that I'm more concise, more clear as I talk, allows me to do way, way more than I was able to.
And just thinking about how I type, like with two fingers, just about that is a limit to the bandwidth that Interweb can help me with.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered quite a bit. I think it's probably time now to pull all of this together and sort of summarize for either those that are entirely fresh to this and not currently engaging, or those that have perhaps tried and had a false start and have maybe back to square one. If we can break this down into a very simple prompt, a people prompt. So I love the idea of triangulating different tools. So if I can pick 3, which would I pick?
At the moment, I'd probably pick Claude AI. It is a very good one. Claude is about to come out with an agent element as well, which will be great when it gets out. I'd pick GenSpark. So GenSpark is an agent tool which uses multiple different large language models and things to dig into. And then, over and above that, ChatGPT would be another option. It allows you to do more at a lower cost in terms of the free versions. In terms of what you need to do, just start using it every day. You use it for your holiday planning, use it for your meal planning, use it for your wellness planning. Because if you don't start using it, you're never going to get to understand what the limitations are. And the limitations, you don't give up straight away. Understand that if you're not using it in the right way,
Yeah, really great tip. And those dumbbells that sit in my garage haven't helped me grow my arm muscles. But it's not the dumbbells' fault. It's this dumbbell's fault.
for sure, right? Sure.
Okay. Really interesting. So, yeah, and been, as always, it's fascinating and very educational talking to you. If any of our listeners have enjoyed this and want to talk further or get to know you a bit better, how best to get in touch?
I think LinkedIn is probably a key channel for me. So it's Roy Castleman, and I'm on LinkedIn. Otherwise, my one website is www.allthepower.co.uk. So have a reach out there, and I'm happy to discuss these AI things with everybody. It is very much a passion of mine. But then also, we spoke about the strange things I do. So getting an ice bath and breath work and other things. All these things. I think. What I do, I help business owners learn AI, but also help them with wellness and then grow and scale their businesses. And, it's a fascinating life. Live the life you love and you will enjoy every day.
Indeed, and great way to approach things. And we'll definitely have you back very soon to talk about some of the other interesting activities, and maybe have that debate about which is best, an ice bath or a matey bath. Which one will win? That's a great.
I think you should both come and visit me here in Bedford and jump in those.
I'm up for that. I'm a
little bit shy, I think. especially if it's cold water.
It's definitely cold water. Yeah, we'll keep it at 5 degrees, so it's not too cold for you. But it's
Okay.
cold.
Very good. There we are. So we'll leave all of our listeners with that mental picture in their mind that they now cannot unsee. And it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks ever so much.
Yes.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks.